A beautiful day in September. Arrived in Tel Aviv from Hong Kong last night. Stayed in the Metropole Hotel. I'm about to spend 2 weeks here, taking a coach tour with some good friends from the UK. In part 1, we'll go through the Negev desert, visit the desert home of David Ben-Gurion, see the majestic Ramon crater, and visit Timna Park, where we'll not only see history, but an incredible replica of Moses' Tabernacle in the wilderness. Today's destination is the Red Sea port of Eilat, getting a close-up look at the Negev desert, through which the children of Israel journeyed. First stop, the kibbutz Sde Boker, that became the desert home of David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister. Whilst on a trip to the town of Mitzpeh Ramon, Prime Minister Ben-Gurion observed a group of tents and simple buildings beside the road. He was told that a group of pioneer families had moved there to establish a settlement in the desert. After returning to Tel Aviv, he wrote to members of the kibbutz, "I was unable to stop being jealous and envious of you." After a meeting, they invited him to join them, and he did. Next stop, about halfway, to look at the formidable Ramon crater, where there's a lookout point that enables us to see the amazing views. This is indeed a holy site. It's one of the places where the Israelites would have passed, the wilderness of Paran. It's also where Hagar and Ishmael were exiled. The town of Kadesh Barnea is to the west, the Dead Sea to the northeast. The Ramon crater is actually a box canyon, not formed by a river, but by settling and erosion. The edges clearly seen. The depth is about 500 meters. The red and yellow clay creating a variety of colors. There is said to be only one spring in the whole area. It's quite unlike anything I'd ever seen before. There's a great visitor center with some interesting things to see. A fascinating and enjoyable visit. We then headed down to Eilat. Passing through the crater and enjoying another view of it. It had been a long but enjoyable day. Next morning we backtracked a little. We're visiting the ancient site of Timna, only 15 minutes from Eilat. An area rich in copper ore that's been mined for thousands of years and which many believe to be the location of King Solomon's mines, made famous by a 19th century novel which erroneously places the mines in Africa. But there's no proof that Solomon was ever here either. When we research the Old Testament, we find a reference to both the promise of God and the value of copper in Deuteronomy 8:7. For the Lord your God is bringing you to a good land, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you can dig copper. I believe this is malachite, a common copper ore. But there's another attraction here in the park that is amazing. It's a full-size model of Moses' tabernacle in the wilderness that holds great interest for both Jew and Christian. Erected in the desert, the creators have taken great pains in an attempt to faithfully replicate the tabernacle. The guide was excellent, not only giving the history, but also some great insights. The dimensions of this replica followed the biblical instructions given to Moses. The outer wall, the brazen altar, and laver. The tabernacle itself being created in the dimensions and colors specified to Moses, though not the exact materials. It's gold paint. To be in this location and hear the guide describe it was special. I was impressed that though our guide was Jewish, she also explained aspects of the tabernacle that were of interest to Christians. The outer court layout and the furniture inside have great significance. Inside is immaculate. The table of showbread, the golden lampstand, the golden altar of incense, the high priestly garments, having great significance. We even get to see inside the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant contained three things: a golden jar holding the manna, Aaron's rod which budded, and the tablets of the covenant on which are written the 10 Commandments. To be in the middle of the desert and observe this is eerie, like going back in time. In biblical times, the 12 tribes of Israel would have encamped around it. From there we went over to another part of the site where the so-called Solomon's Pillars are to be found. They are indeed majestic. The wilderness is home to many acacia bushes, which some believe to be a type of the burning bush. Clearly, the site was used millennia ago. This is the remains of an Egyptian temple dedicated to Hathor, the goddess of mining, who is also the goddess of the afterlife. It's been a fascinating visit, being able to experience truly ancient history, and not least seeing the Tabernacle replica. In part 2, we explore the beautiful Red Sea port of Eilat, the ocean life, a trip on a sailing boat, as we experience Israel.